It all begins in one of the classic adventures post Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Sonic, destroying the plans of Dr. Ivo Robotnik. A cycle that was repeated over and over again. Sonic had no problem stopping the Doctor, but every time, he was more frustrated with the Hedgehog. He wanted more and more to eliminate it than to defeat it. The breaking point came one day when the Doctor's plans were frustrated. His head would burn to the point of leaving him emaciated. Sonic would only see an explosion, trusting that his great enemy would survive. But after that, Robotnik would take some time. The Doctor was enraged, so much so that he changed all of his goals to making Sonic suffer, even taking dirty and unethical strategies. Months passed, and Sonic had lowered his guard as he thought that the Doctor had finally given up on this game of conquering the world. However, one day he was attacked on Green Hill itself by Metal Sonic. Sonic confident he would have a race with his counterpart to train after a long time. Metal would accept. It would be a fair race, however. This was all a trap to guide Sonic to a route full of barbed wire traps. The traps were so surprising that the spikes ripped Sonic so fast, Sonic couldn't turn into a ball to go through them. They were already all over his body. After this, Metal Sonic would furiously attack the helpless Sonic, leaving no chance to defend himself. It was an unfair beating, and Sonic, on the verge of death, would see Sonic's will would suffer a great blow. For the first time, the Doctor would instill a terrible fear in the Hedgehog. Months have passed after that. A scarred Sonic is resting, seeing how the world is becoming more and more robotic by the new Emperor of them into an upgraded Metal Sonic. Eggman slowly turned. Sonic could only watch the war with Eggman and his friends just pass by. Tails would help nurse Sonic back to stable health, at least for him to walk again, but not run. He supplied Sonic with boots from his workshop and wrapped his knees in. Sonic, with a weakened mind, seeing how Knuckles and Tails went out to fight every day against the old Doctor, decided to visit Labyrinth Zone. The days passed and Sonic discovered more about this ancient area. He saw how there were thousands of stories lost in time that with a little effort could be interpreted. The Hedgehog was able to open his mind beyond all the chaos that was happening outside, and he was able to chill out. He discovered an ancient culture, perhaps the largest and the one that built the entire Labyrinth Zone. Its customs, traditions and beliefs. Sonic saw that they believed a lot in the gods. They were a very devoted race to them, until he began to see many clues about their own end of the world, and pride contained the end of the world already predestined. Everything should have ended there. So this supernatural force had to finish the job. It was the natural cycle of this universe. As Sonic went through the twists and winds of the ruin, he encountered a peculiar area with a red glow to it, one that he had never seen before. The engravings on the walls depicted Mobians trapping some being within a red gem, with both caution and engulfed Sonic's mouth, eyes and ears. Barbed wire coiled around and pierced his skin, following the mist into his cavities as well. It was unbelievably, immensely painful, so much so that Sonic had passed out from the sheerness of it, almost believing that he had died, but death would have been a fish's talons breaking through his shoes, sharpened teeth sealed in his jaw. Hesitantly, Sonic peered into his reflection in a nearby water puddle, and screamed at the horror of it. Barbed wire snaking out of his wrists, his body bruised and blooded, and his eyes pitch black, with piercing, bright red pupils, and tears of black liquid streaming down from them. He ran out of Labyrinth Zone, shamed and horrified at his appearance, as even the nearby animals fled from him in fear as he sped past. But Sonic felt as if that wasn't the end of it. Something in his head, almost like somebody else was in there. All the noise that he had made attracted a small crew of badniks to Sonic's location. He froze, not knowing what to do, but wanting to not be captured and robotized. But all of a sudden, he started to float again, and without any control from himself. The tendrils of barbed wire painfully unhooked themselves from his wrists and slashed out at the badniks, making quick work of them by snaking through small cracks in their bodies and crushing their insides. As other badniks watched this unfold, they rushed in, perceiving Sonic's new power as a huge threat. In a sudden turn of character, he felt blinded by anger and annoyance, and ruthlessly destroyed the remaining badniks. As he finished this, his hands shook, not knowing how to think or what to feel at this moment. Once again Sonic looked into his watery reflection, now truly beholding what he had become. He then glanced over at the gutted and broken badniks, remembering what the doctor had done to him, what he had done to his friends. Sonic felt pure anger at even the sheer thought of Eggman.
It's time to pay the good doctor a visit.
And so, Sonic began his journey to finally defeat Dr. Eggman. Eggman's brand new base of operations was located on the other side of the planet, in a brand new palace he built just for himself. Eggmanland, the robotic theme park paradise that the Mad Doctor had always dreamed of building.
Surrounding his brand new fortress, however, were zones upon zones of metallic madness that had deterred even some of the bravest and strongest people Sonic had ever known. However, what normally would have been a terrifying threat was reduced to nothing thanks to Sonic's newfound powers.
Zone after zone, he tore through Eggman's forces like never before, making his way to Eggman's base at an alarming rate.
With his forces dwindling in numbers, Eggman increased security around Eggmanland, having no idea of the true extent of Sonic's power when Sonic finally arrived.
At the gates of Eggmanland, the opposition he was met with should have been fierce, but one by one every single badnik guarding the large, moustached gates met their end.
His rage growing, Sonic burst through into the city, tearing through every single robotic foe he came across. Anything Eggman threw at him quickly met his match, and before long, Sonic had finally made it to the heart of Eggman's headquarters. Wave after wave of robotic foe came for Sonic, but it was only mere moments before Sonic came face to face with the Doctor himself. Eggman was woefully unprepared for Sonic's power, only barely managing to call in his first secret weapon, his new and improved Metal Sonic. Metal came bursting in, grabbing Sonic and tossing him to the ground.
However, even the impossibly strong chokehold of Metal Sonic could not kill what Sonic had become.
As Sonic broke free of his grasp and swiftly decommissioned his robotic copy in a flash of wire and sparks.
And as Metal fell to the floor, Sonic turned his attention back to Eggman, ready to finally let the Doctor know a taste of the pain he was causing.
But as Sonic would find out, Metal was a diversion. Their brief battle gave Eggman enough time to call in his strongest badniks, ones he had created and saved for the sole purpose of finally defeating Sonic.
The machines ambushed Sonic, and while he tried to fight back, it had seemed Sonic the Hedgehog had finally met his end.
Smashed, burned, and bruised, Sonic's body lay on the floor of Eggman's base. The glory of finally ending his longtime foe got to Eggman's head, however, and in the middle of all of his gloating and celebration, Sonic's supposed corpse began to move, first a little twitch, but then bones started to unbreak, wounds started to close, and burns began to heal over.
Sonic's body began to rise into the air, but who, or rather what was controlling it, was no longer truly Sonic.
All of the pain that the Doctor had caused, the anger at what he had done to his world, and the ever more present voice of an unknown entity in his ear, all combined into a being that may have had the shell of what once was Sonic,
but on the inside was no longer the hero he had once been.
And in a sudden flash of barbed wire and agonized screams, Dr. Eggman was no more. The second the Doctor's mangled corpse hit the floor, Sonic fell down with him.
Whatever was inside his body had healed him. Yes, but it was only when he saw what once was Eggman that he realized what else it did.
Horrified at what he saw, Sonic fled the scene, trying to not erase the image of what little was left of the Doctor from his mind, but to drown out the growing voice of the entity that was consuming him. Sonic ran all the way out of Eggmanland, through the all-stained carnage he had left behind, and
back to his friends. Terrified, he sought comfort in the people he trusted the most, forgetting all about what had happened to him until the second he saw his closest friends back away in fear at the sight of him.
Sonic tried his best to assure them that it's still him, and that he was okay, but they weren't buying it.
To them, their friend was gone, and what was left was nothing but a shell.
Sonic, desperate not to lose the people he held dear, ran up to them to try and give them a hug. However, in his moment of vulnerability, Sonic forgot all about his abilities, forgot what they had done to Eggman.
In his desperate attempt to calm his friends, his powers suddenly went out of control again, as Sonic once more became a bystander in his own body.
His friends fought hard, but they were no match for what had taken over Sonic. Forced to watch, Sonic felt what was left of his soul break in half as his own friends were turned into mangled, unrecognizable corpses, bleeding out onto the once green grass. When Sonic regained control of his body, all he could do was fall to
his knees and cry.
In mere moments, Sonic had lost everything in his life, everything he hated, everything he loved. It was all gone, and it was all his fault. Yet as he cried, the voice in his head kept getting louder.
It had gone from a whisper to a loud boom in his head, drowning out the voice of his own mind with its deafening, unrelenting laughter. In that moment, the hero once known as Sonic the Hedgehog
Had ceased to be, and all that was left was a curse let loose upon the land.
Thanks for watching.
If you wanna see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and to comment which character do you wanna see next.